welcome to another edition of the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. And I'm your host, Student Minister Rodney Muhammad, here in the city of Philadelphia and the Delaware Valley region, and joined by my capable co-host, Student Minister Michael Muhammad from Atlantic City, New Jersey. And so we welcome you to another edition of the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. Always reminding you to go to noi.org. That's noi.org. And you will get a whole table full of activities that are going on with our own Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You can find out about the Final Call newspaper, which is our weekly publication, the Final Call radio, which goes 24/7 now. You can go to the Final Call radio and hear powerful addresses by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan over the years. And of course, you can find out about products that you can get from the Final Call bookstore. You can find out about the many articles and addresses given by many of the helpers of Minister Louis Farrakhan all over the country. So go to noi.org to get all of that information. And we hope that you will be a part of our programming. Every Tuesday night we air. You can go to Facebook Live. You can go to our YouTube page, which is the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. That's the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. And you can get not only our current shows, but you can find out from the archives interviews, powerful, thought-provoking interviews that we have had with several people that are impacting the world that we live in today. Needless to say, we are grateful for the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who has given our life purpose, given our life direction, and offered for our community an unequaled guidance that has not failed us, even up to this date. And tonight we're going to be talking about a most important subject. We're at the 100-year mark of a tragedy in the United States of America. And, we have a capable person to talk to us about that today, and that's none other than a great helper to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'm making my 40th year in the Nation of Islam under his leadership. And as far back as I can remember, when I came in the nation, this brother was in the Nation of Islam. He originates from the East Coast. We're going to claim that. But just to abbreviate some of his impressive bio, his undergraduate studies was in political science there at Hampton Institute there in Virginia. But he has a master's and even a doctorate in city planning and environmental policy. And that's what makes him so well fit for the discussion we want to have today. That's none other than our student minister, and he's our student regional minister for the Southwest region for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and our Nation of Islam, longtime soldier. We welcome him to the program, Student Minister Abdul Haleem Muhammad. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, brother. It is so good to have you. And we thank you for the time that you're giving us for the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. We have been reaching out around the country, of course, to bring together those kind of minds and those people that are impacting the world that we live in today. On May 31st and June 1st of 1921, a terrible tragedy took place in this country. And of course, this is in the Southwest region for the Nation of Islam, there in Oklahoma. Whites deputized and weaponized a white mob that attacked the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma, 35 square block area, where some of the wealthiest Black people, and called the wealthiest Black community in America at that time in post-World War I. 10,000 people were dispossessed of their homes and residence and were homeless. Nearly 300 or more were outright murdered. This incident started with Dick Rowland and Sarah Page, a young black man and a teenage white girl on an elevator. It's still confusing what took place. Some accounts say that he may have tripped and fell against her, and she overreacted with screaming in that. But another account said that they were lovers. One thing is for sure, it's never been understood why the two of them were at work on a holiday. And that was something we found as we were looking into this. And of course, after this tragedy, people dispossessed of their wealth, their property, their life dreams. People got out with their lives. They were never able to recover. And that's a large part of the story today, too, that there's still a fight for claims on wealth, generational wealth that was lost in this one single incident. And so we've asked our guests to come on and talk with us, a man who's well-versed in city planning, well-versed in environmental policy. That means when it comes to city planning and rulings, when it comes to zoning and empowerment zones and things of this sort, these are the kind of things that have to be discussed in this. But Student Minister Haleem, obviously you're watching these events unfold, the accounts that are being made for it. What's your thinking? What's your reaction to all this?
Well, first of all, Brother Student Minister Rodney, I thank Allah for you, your service to our nation. As I came into the nation, brother, you still, even from a distance, was one of my mentors. I've been a student minister since 1987, and you were our national secretary. And I can remember, your wise counsel along with our brother Abdul Haleem Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him.
Oh, yes.
At the 1990, I think it was, we were in Detroit, Savior's Day, Detroit. Oh, yeah. And I thank you, brother, for inviting me, you and Brother Michael, to invite me on this program. And so, my take on it is that I'll start with what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said and wrote, that we found these people to be absolutely disagreeable to live with in peace.
Oh, my goodness.
And this 1921 massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, has to be put in the historical context of post-Reconstruction America and all the other massacres that took place before and during Reconstruction. You can start with the draft riots in New York in 1863. And then you can go just down the line, massacres that took place in Louisiana and Mississippi and Arkansas and in Georgia and in Florida and in Texas. And then you go into the 20th century and you look at the Red Summer of 1919. And even before that, the things that took place in Chicago and East St. Louis. And then, of course, I can't leave out my own ancestral home of Wilmington, North Carolina, in the Wilmington Massacre of November 1868. And you have to fully understand why much of what took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma was like a kind of a secret that Black people didn't talk about, only in their own family circles. And this happened in my own family. I thank God for Ancestry.com. I was able to find the bits and remnants of my family that were scattered from Wilmington.
Is that right? Okay.
On the matriarchal side, the Hall and the Blackledge families who suffered under that and were pushed out of there. And so my grandmother, whom I share the same birth anniversary of December with, she used to say things like, birthday boy, if I was a man, she used to poke me in my chest. If I was a man, I would have fought them, even though she was born a year after that. And I never understood what she was saying. She said, they were in the graveyard. They had to stay in the graveyard. They had to hide out by the Fear River. I was like, man, what you talking about? They overheard us talking on on an open line. I'm like, what's she talking about, Nana? And it's only as an adult that I found out about the Wilmington Massacre, the
Wow.
only coup d'etat that took place
Right. Right.
in an American city in the United States, led to, again, the last post-Reconstruction congressman, who's George White from Wilmington, North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
who ironically, Brother Student Minister Rodney, moved to Philadelphia, and he, with a real estate partner, brought up property in southern Jersey, which, of course, when I left New York, my mother, I finished high school in Whitesboro, New Jersey. It's named after him. And
Wow.
it was an enclave for, and you find many people from North Carolina. That's where Stedman Graham grew up. And the Grahams, the Spaldings, the Moores, many of these are from North Carolina who found
Wow.
refuge in this black enclave called Whitesboro, New Jersey.
Wow.
So what you see, beloved, is that you see that pre Civil War, post Reconstruction, post Reconstruction was, and what kind of gets under my skin is this constant mantra of we died for the right to vote. We died for a lot of reasons.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
We died for trying to be black businessmen. We died for our right in Elaine, Arkansas, to organize, sharecroppers to organize, and they were slaughtered. So we died for just to be black businessmen, to be respected, to keep our land, to keep the best land. We were slaughtered for many reasons. And oftentimes it was a false charge of us assaulting white women. And it was just, but it was to destroy our wealth. And what we have yet to come to grips with the fact is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and that side of our struggle talked about: the ownership of land. It's about land.
It's about land.
It's about land. What you had was in the city of Philadelphia, and it has a rich history that's right there within our fingertips. If we would just go down to Constitutional Hall and go into the bookstore and start buying those books, you and I would find out that after the French Indian War, the then Continental Congress, if you will, or those representatives in the colony,
the first one here in Philadelphia,
right, they were angry with the Crown and the Parliament for assessing taxes to pay for that war without having representation here. And the hotbed of rebellion was in Massachusetts, particularly in Boston.
Right.
So they came together and they formed this Continental Congress, and they made appeals to the Crown, and it became evident that King George III and the Parliament wasn't trying to hear it, because you were charter holders. We gave you charters. We gave you royal charters. There was 3 different kinds of charters, and I won't get into the minutiae of that. But they gave them charters. Hey, I'm giving you this free reign to have the land, to get from it, but you got to pay. You got to pay the cost to be the boss. And so at a particular point in time, it became evident that their appeals weren't being heard, and this led to protests and, of course, the Boston Massacre. And once that began, once bloodshed began, that was it. And so again, these 13 colonies came together and declared their independence, and eventually formed the Continental Congress, formed the Articles of Confederation, 13 sovereign states just held together by this Articles of Confederation, but each one of them had their own money, their own form of taxation. There really wasn't a federalist or central government that could do that. So fast forwarding, eventually they said, we got to fix this thing. We got to fix this Continental Congress. So they came together May 25th, 1787, in the city of Philadelphia.
That's
74 property owning white men were invited. 55 showed up. 39, or really 38 people who eventually signed the Constitution. The 39th, there's 39 signatures, really 40, which was the secretary of the whole meeting. But there were 39 signatures on there, and really 38 signed. One was a proxy for another. But there were three men who stayed, but they never signed the document. most notable to me is George Mason because of his influence on Thomas Jefferson and the Declaration of Independence and the writings of Virginia's kind of sense Bill of Rights or its Declaration of Independence, if you will. He was ironically the largest slave owner at the conference. And he really distrusted strong central government. But what they don't like to talk about, the fact is that he really objected to the second major compromise during the Continental Congress regarding the importation of slaves. And his words, and I'm paraphrasing, is that nations cannot be punished in the hereafter. They must be punished in the here and now. And he says that national sins beget national calamities.
Yeah, I remember that saying.
Huh?
I remember hearing that saying.
Yes. So you'll find it in the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers, the debates. But once that issue was resolved, the northern merchant class said, okay, look, we'll go along with the importation of slaves for another 20 years, as long as you don't tax imports. That was their concern, because the banking and the shipping and the not refineries, Lord, I'm in Texas. The places where they make the distilleries. Were there in Rhode Island, New York, along the East Coast. The insurance, this is why Connecticut is an insurance and a banking magnet. It's because they insured and they financed some of these slave ships and whatnot. And Wall Street, there's so much, brother.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think generationally or just on a national scale, there's some disconnects here? I'll give you an example. Point number 4 of our program about separate territory here. It doesn't describe going anywhere else. It talks about separate territory here. And the word state is used before territory in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words. But with people saying under no circumstances should we ever consider a separate territory, a separate government, a separate reality or existence. But before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad placed these demands as the answer to the most oft-asked questions to him, there were efforts on the part of our people without this teaching to try to build a separate existence for themselves, whether it was a segregated existence or they just saw themselves as trying to be independent. And I brought this up in this subject about Black Wall Street, as it's affectionately called, this Greenwood section of Tulsa. But my research also showed that 15 years before this tragedy happened, this section, this Greenwood section, was actually organized by Booker T. Washington, who had gone there in 1906. And he was fanatical about trying to build an independent existence for Black people. And so he visited this area more than once after organizing it. But, you ask yourself, how did so many Black people just end up in one section and all this money? The economic multiplier was something like 38. The last report I saw, the dollar would turn 38 times before it left the Black community in the Greenwood section, because we had so many connecting kinds of enterprises and institutions where that dollar flowed. But people talk today about building something separate or something almost as like it's a new idea, but this has been a long since idea seemingly held by our people.
I apologize for going off on the tangent, that constitutional tangent, but I thought I'm making the point about these were property owning white men that in the drafting of the Constitution, which was signed on September 17th, 1787 in Philadelphia. And note that date, September 17th. But the point is that I think that is property owning. They did not even want non-property owning white males to vote. So at the basis, at the core of everything in this country is the ownership of property, particularly land. And that time it was land and people, which were our ancestors. and the interesting thing is that what we fail to grasp is the fact that that even before, and I always bring receipts, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I'm going to try. Okay, there you go. Slavery and a Peculiar Solution. The American Colonization Society, which where they tried to take free blacks. They said, look, we got to solve this problem. So they put together, this is what James Monroe and these other prominent white people put together a movement to move us to Africa. That's how Liberia got started. So that's one.
That's
And
one.
then one of
Martin
the first,
Delaney and others. Yeah.
right. And so one of the first black towns, brother Rodney, is of Brooklyn, Illinois. So it was 1830 to 1915. Brooklyn, Illinois, is one of the first black towns. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So there's another book here that I have here that's written by Crockett. It's called Black Towns, and this book is about black towns by Norman Crockett. About the black towns that we formed, particularly post Civil War. We want to get away from these people. Okay,
Yeah,
so
right.
let me take it. So
it's not a new idea. It's not a new idea.
No. So
you got people that think that we didn't talk about trying to have a separate existence until the Muhammad Speaks newspaper came out. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was looking to me at the best possible solution, even as the minister told us that in the latter years of the Nation of Islam's development, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was said to have been in negotiations with the administration of Tuskegee Institute to purchase the campus. And after reading up on Booker T. Washington, somebody that I didn't care for him because of accommodationist politics, but after I studied him more, I grew to have a deeper appreciation of this man, because that's the only HBCU that the students built with their own hands. I mean, this is a testimony of us building for ourselves and the resolve, the talents, and the kind of strength that we really have. But go ahead.
So again, brother, I'm going to stay in that line of divine right there. So before Black Wall Street, before Greenwood, before the destruction of it, there was a black state movement in Oklahoma that was sabotaged before statehood. We came, in many came the Trail of Tears. Many black people came with the Indians. In fact, we were Indians, and we were driven in that Trail of Tears from Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, and we were pushed into the Indian Territory. Now there was the Indian Territory and there was the Oklahoma Territory. And when they merged the two together, they became a state. But prior to that, there was a black state movement that was sabotaged and destroyed long before Greenwood. That black people wanted to form their own state. So again, receipts. So that's even before Garvey, who came looking for Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington from slavery inspired Marcus Garvey. See,
that's right.
Again,
that's right.
What I was before I got on that constitutional tangent.
I
beg your viewers forgiveness.
We need you said context,
right?
So you wanted context.
Yeah. So I wanted to give them a background, understanding that it's always about property. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said there were three things that they were debating in Congress as to what they were never going to teach the Negro, as they were debating appropriations for HBCUs at that time, was the science of business, the science of warfare, and the science of chemistry/mating.
Yes.
Those three things. And it was Herbert Hoover said the business of America is business. But land is the basis of independence. And the basis of a real business is land. So anyway, so you fast forward and you begin to think about the Republic of New Africa, free the land.
Yeah.
So this is always a constant drumbeat. And even in black Republican circles, you had Soul City in North Carolina, which was a failed experiment because they pulled the plug on brother as he began to lay out this city plan where black people in North Carolina could really have an independent existence. So this is nothing New.
So it sounds to me like you're saying whether we, whatever efforts we did and however far we got in terms of progress of an idea and bringing that idea into a to materialize it, it seems that in the end, if they could not circumvent it, you just burn it down. You find some occasion to come in, kill the people, and just burn the town down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did, brother. You know, again, you look at again the Red Summer.
Yes.
I just bring receipts,
Yeah.
brother. I don't want
Yeah.
you know.
No, I appreciate it.
There's a saying that I got appropriated from a banker I met once.
Uh-huh.
He said documentation beats conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
So there's plenty of writings about it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that many of the so-called liberals, I don't like these nanny state liberals, Brother Rodney.
Mm-hmm.
They try to use white guilt. Today,
Yeah.
political correctness and white guilt don't work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, and then I don't like these father knows best conservatives that tell you to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And the history shows that they have taken our boots from us and our daggone bootstraps.
That's
And
right.
so how are we going to create this existence? And then we got, as Dr. King said, you know, that the moderate, the white moderate is as dangerous as the white Citizens Council or the Ku Klux Klaner, because he's more interested in order than he is in justice.
Mm-hmm.
So they would calm him down, throw some money at him, and this kind of thing. And you look at the poverty industry. See, Johnson, you know, a lot of times we blame Nixon for this so-called war on our community and war on crime. But in truth, it was Johnson who started the war on poverty. And then after he signed the Voters' Rights Act in 1965, watts went up in smoke. And so he formed a commission to study violence in our communities,
right?
Eventually leading up to what we call the Kerner Commission, which he did not like the outcome of it. But if you read it very carefully, it tells you how, again, these police actions, and I don't want to forget, taking it right up to the modern times, I don't want to forget what they dropping a bomb on Move, just like they dropped bombs and dynamites on the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right.
Nor do I forget the slaughter that took place 2015 in Charleston, South Carolina. It continues on, and the only thing that really got us conscious or woke was watching George Floyd for 9 minutes plus be murdered right in front of the world's eyes. Mm-hmm. It's like, whoa. So that couldn't be spun by the media. It couldn't be interpreted. We know what we saw. Mm-hmm. And what we saw is just bears witness to what we have experienced since our feet hit the shores of North America. And you're talking about those two tracks that we've been on. The accommodationist, assimilationist, integrationist track. Yeah. And those who wanted separations, reparations, and repatriations track. These are two different tracks. And we've been taught, you know, what a dilemma is to be presented with two unpleasant choices, but you got to choose the lesser of two evils. They chose the lesser of two evils. For them was the civil rights accommodationist side. Mm-hmm. Because to give us real justice is to give us some of this earth we called our own. Mm-hmm. To give us justice is to give us reparations. To give us justice is to support us for 25 years like they've supported Israel all of these years. To give us justice would be that if they would give us from 5 to 8 states and let us form a state, meaning we govern our own affairs and they watch over us and protect us, as Thomas Jefferson suggested that they should, supply us with arms, with cattle, with grain, whatever we needed, implements, tools, whatever we needed to be independent and watch over us and be a protectorate over us. And then Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, in the Muslim beliefs, Brother Rodney, he told us, Brother Michael, he told us that, you know, we don't believe in participating in wars that take human life.
That's right.
But there is a catch to it, unless you give us some earth to fight, something worth fighting for. So if somebody attacked America and we had our own state and attacked this continental area, then we're gonna fight because we're fighting for our own. But now you asking us on this Memorial Day to remember the dead when Memorial Day, according to the history that I've studied, was the fact that black people were trying to honor the Union soldiers that gave their life to free them from enslavement.
Mm-hmm.
So coming up in June 19th is Juneteenth. It's an interesting holiday down here in Texas, brother. Where
Well, I saw you. There was an impressive workshop that the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, our former National Secretary, Brother Kamal, conducted. And of course, you were a part of that giving presentation. You showed some of the dwellings and you had great input into this kind of urban development. And I noticed recently in the final call, we have some groups that have purchased land now, and there are a lot of things they got to consider. And I think sometimes people think it's like ABC, all we need is some separate territory and we can just start building, but you need sewage lines, you need where you're going to hook your water up from. What about the power grid to service the homes, dwellings, businesses? What kind of businesses are you going to have so that you can sustain the community? You can't just open beauty salons and barbershops and then nobody thought about getting a grocery store or something to get something to the market. So talk to us about city planning. Do we know what we're doing, or are we, it's one thing to buy into a concept, but I think it's another thing altogether to get, and, God bless Minister Abdul Haleem Muhammad. He always said this. He said, the leader does the right thing, but managers who hear the leader must learn how to do things right. Are we doing it right?
See,
what do we do when we talk about city planning?
Well, brother, again, I'll give you two things. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan coined the phrase, "He who gives you the diameter of your knowledge prescribes for you the circumference of your actions."
Yes, sir.
And so there's another saying that I know, I can't attribute it to anyone, but those who know how to do a thing usually work for those who know why you're doing it.
Yeah. Well,
so we have to go to the divinely guided man in our midst, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and get from him the vision.
That's right.
Remember when we were in Africa, Brother Rodney, at the Savior's Day convention, International Savior's Day in 1994, Minister Farrakhan said the most important ingredient of leadership is vision.
Yeah.
And if you have a vision, you can attract the people who have the talent and the skill. That's so right. What we have to do is go back to, again, when we look at the booklets that came out in 74, 75 called The Accomplishments of the Muslims. There were two of them that came out that I know of. And look at what God put in the head of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad towards nationhood. And one of them was a national college, a national Muslim college. And when you read the article itself that's in those booklets, he gathered together at that point nearly 100 plus educated Muslims who had master's degrees and whatnot. But they said that all the education that we get from the white man, it really doesn't amount to anything. We have to go to the divinely guided man and then be able to put in effect. So what has to happen, beloved, is that we simply have to look at the billions of words that Mr. Farrakhan has spoken on behalf of our father, our eternal leader, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and put those things into action. Yes, sir. And they have to be taken in such a way that we look at it in a systematic way. It's not for him to tell us why. He's already told us why. It's for us to put a draft together, put draft on everything, and then send it to him so that he may guide us in the proper way. But there are some fundamental things that the beautiful thing, and you have been at being a former executive national laborer, Brother Rodney, you completely understand that Minister Farrakhan, one of the greatest qualities of the man is he's a great listener.
Oh,
and he is so wise that he will let people of scholarship and knowledge be around him, and he will listen to what they have to say, and he doesn't just reject it. He'll
No.
make adjustments. He'll give you insight in it. He'll make you a better architect, a better urban planner, a
And
better doctor, a better musician. He'll make you better whatever you
whatever
are.
you
So
are.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yes, brother. But there's some fundamental immutable principles of planning that have to be looked at if we are to be successful. Some of which you hit on. There's subterranean work that has to be done that
Mhm.
deals with sewage, that deals with infrastructure, and then there's surface things, and then there's horizontal and there's vertical things that have to be
Mhm.
done. These are immutable principles that have to be that. Now the bottom line is brother, is that in 2021, given what we're seeing, this thing coming up with Tulsa should make us understand why God set up the FOI and the MGT, but he set up this military structure.
Mhm.
Because see, we can't just talk about sustainable development being trying to bring equilibrium between economy and the environment, building an economy without destroying the environment, and at the same time trying to make it in a sense a triangle, and at the triangle you have social equity.
Yeah.
Because each one of those points on that triangle, brother, each one of those points that make up that triangle have priorities. And every
Mhm.
one of those priorities therefore conflict with the other points priorities. But we're in a post 9/11 Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Katrina, natural calamity, fall of America through the forces of nature
Yes, sir.
era, planning era. So you have to add to it security, because it's not about two armies facing each other or nuclear weapons being shot at each other. Security today is about asymmetrical warfare, active
Mhm.
shooter, and things of that nature. So our way that we've been brought up, so we don't mind getting searched. We go to the airport, we go to
That's
the
right.
courthouse. Yeah, okay, go ahead. That's what we do. That is actually a part of our culture. So
Mhm.
God had already instilled in us. See, that's the vision. God already knew that a time would come in America where nothing would be safe. All
Yeah.
right, so that's it. And here in Texas, the governor's about to sign a constitutional carry, meaning people can carry guns that don't have to have training, don't have to have a license, don't have to have a background check.
That's something.
Everybody can carry a pistol. That's going to be interesting in the wild, wild west,
Well,
right out here in
I was
Texas.
looking at Tulsa, and they said that they had destroyed 191 businesses,
Yeah.
1,256 homes, 215 of the homes they didn't burn them down, but they looted them, and of course, 10,000 plus people were left homeless. In 2020 dollars, you got about 26 million in claims coming, but the they had two newspapers or more. There was a hospital, there were two movie theaters, there were churches, of course, there were their own nightclubs and everything. And then they said there were Black professionals who benefited from the oil boom, because that's what was bringing Oklahoma out of the slump. But back to land, back to your point on land. So I'm bringing up, some of these things to say, I
But
used
but brother
the
Rodney,
cartoon used to show
they
a whole
started
bunch of
rebuilding
buildings.
Black Wall. Understand? They started rebuilding parts of Greenwood.
Yes,
Because
they
in
did.
a sense, Black people, though they didn't get insurance claims, they still owned the land. So they
Yeah,
started rebuilding portions of Greenwood, not back where it was prior to the race
yeah.
riot, but
I
they
guess
started
I'm.
rebuilding it, and it was urban renewal
Hmm.
and highway construction that literally eviscerated that Black community, just like in Philadelphia,
Always.
just
That's
like
right.
everywhere across this country.
That's right.
That's what the highways did.
Yeah.
And
I-
urban renewal, which was supposed to be slum removal. Now he had properties that, and then you get into what you're talking about, the things that of course that I've studied and
Mhm.
still studying. Redlining.
Yeah.
Redlining comes from the fact that, okay, look, the change that came in America that Herbert Hoover tried to bring about during the Great Depression was, in a sense, to lay his chips on home building.
Yeah.
So what they give long-term financing. In other words, you could get long-term financing. However, in order to get that long-term financing, you had to have certain kind of insurances. So if you didn't want black people to move in your neighborhood, you just wouldn't give them the insurance to get the financing. And that's where
Yeah.
redlining comes from. There were certain
Yeah.
neighborhoods that were redlined that if you want to build it, if you want to, I won't lend money in that
That's
area
right.
that's
That's
redlined.
right.
And they also had other undesirable ethnic groups, and they had the different kind of lining, but ours was redlining. So you wouldn't lend us money to build. You use zoning laws to restrict how we built. You use deed restrictions so that white people who did move out of that could never sell to black people. You use
Right.
restrictive covenants to do that. So what you did was you locked us in and you created a ghetto. The ghetto was created, is a creation.
Yes.
All right. So when you had deed restricted or restrictive covenants outlawed by the Supreme Court, and when you had the 1968 Fair Housing Act passed after the assassination of Dr. King, in fact, it was being held up in the Senate, ironically, by the black senator Edwin Brooke out of Massachusetts. But after Dr. King was assassinated and the country went up in smoke, they started passing some stuff real fast. But they passed the Fair Housing Act. So anyway,
1968. Yeah.
Right. So now we start moving into these communities, and they start moving out.
Yes.
They start moving out.
The realtor makes money from initially selling the home to a white family. Then when the white family moves out, he makes money again selling it to a black family and selling another home to the white family. I mean, the realtors are cleaning up because, and with one piece of property, you have a minimum of 2 sales.
Right. Well, if you check the history of Philly, there were certain parts of Philadelphia that now we consider to be the hood. They wasn't the hood before.
They weren't the hood before.
They were not the hood before. And the cry about gentrification, it kind of goes like this, beloved. The same forces that segregated us are the same forces that are fueling gentrification.
Yes.
The individuals, the investors, and the institutions. The 3 I's: the individuals, the investors, and the institutions are the one that segregated us, are the same ones today that are turning back around and are gentrifying our areas. And because, again, we rejected the divine guidance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad of him telling us, get some of this earth you can call your own. Yes, he focused on farmland because we need to feed ourselves. But when you look in the accomplishment of the Muslims, the housing that he built right there next to the property on Woodland, when he built the palace, and then you look at the houses, that you could tell the architecture is different.
Indiana Avenue, he had buildings built, residential, where Muslims lived.
Yeah. So he showed us the way, the community, when he was planning many of the things on the South Side to redevelop. Redevelopment plans in Phoenix and other places. He gave us the blueprint, but that blueprint wasn't just for Muslims.
No.
We already rebuilt Black Wall Street. I wish people would stop skipping over the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, going to Garvey, and you ignore Elijah Muhammad as if he's the only one in the 20th century that matched or surpassed what Garvey did. Look, we were Brother Rodney, we were the largest importers of frozen fish, not black. We don't have to put black in front of it. We brought in millions of metric tons of fish. We were doing international business with Peru and the Japanese.
That's right.
I know we can get on the Asians if you want to, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us how to get respect, earn respect.
That's right.
The Japanese were the ones that caught the fish off the shores of Peru, who gave us the right to do it.
That's right.
And we brought that fish in by the tons.
That's right.
The Muslim import store. What are you talking about? Walmart. Yeah. What are you talking about? Target.
That's right.
These places, Walmart is nothing but a distribution point for Chinese-made goods. But it was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that sent Abbas Rasul to China and to around it. It was Ali Dumbrani. I can't pronounce his name. A Turkish man that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave a letter of credit.
Johnny. No, not to Johnny. I know who you're talking about.
Ali Dombrani. He was a
Yeah,
Turkish
back when
businessman.
you're talking about back in by 1983.
Even before, no, before
Before
that,
him. Oh,
brother.
that's right. That's right. The one before.
I met him. I seen him at dinner one time, but it was a
Right.
Turkish man. His Ali. I think his last name starts with a D, but I'm not.
Uh-huh.
Mom gave him a letter of credit. He went around the world with a merchant ship buying stuff for us. So look, we don't have to. What are we talking about? We ain't got to.
Mm-hmm.
It's an attempt. Hear me very well, brothers and sisters who are watching this. There's an attempt to connect our wokeness and our consciousness to the black community being the source of anti-Semitism, anti-Asian hate, and all of these things.
Yeah, I
So
think
go ahead.
I do think that a good documentary, something that's put together that really constructs things the way you're talking about them. We can deal with the theology, we can deal with the controversy, but we should also deal with the accomplishments. At Lincoln University some years back, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was here in the Philadelphia area, and he spoke at Lincoln. Mm-hmm. And in that address, he showed how to end racism. He said it comes through Black accomplishment. Black accomplishment, he says, kills the racist mind. And I thought about J.B. Stoner and others that would argue with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but somehow when you get back to the Black folks that are responsible for building the pyramids, that are responsible for the great cities and the universities that were the center of the world at that time, they don't use the N-word to refer to those Black people. Somehow the accomplishments of those people just kills the racist mind, because the Negro is a manufactured product of the United States of America. He's not you don't find him anywhere else. And so some kind of documentary that just outlines and sketches some of the things that you talked about. I guarantee you, you may even have membership that are not as well acquainted with a lot of the things that you're discussing right now. If they were just sequentially outlined to just show the great accomplishments prior to 1975. Mm-hmm.
Our people are amazing. There's a series on Netflix now called, I know it seems blasphemous for a Muslim to talk about it, called High on the Hog. Mm-hmm. But it really, what it documents is our contributions to America. It's almost like J. Rogers' Africa's Gift to America. And that's what you're talking about, brother. You know,
what do you think about the commission, the Oklahoma Commission?
Oh, that was a joke.
By 2001.
Brother, you're hitting a button right now. That was a joke, because this is what happened.
But wait a minute. I just want to, now they list three things I took down that they say they believe direct payments to descendants, scholarship fund for the children of those aggrieved, and economic development zones. What's your response to those three things that the commission said? They said this.
The Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, brother, is just about almost gentrified. Mm. It pushing all the Blacks out, brother. Mm-hmm. Again, I go back to urban renewal, highway construction, all that. They're getting pushed out. So what kind of economic zone you talking about? Come on. And then there'll be some right-wing conservative that will sue because, look, you setting us to you discriminating against me. This is reverse discrimination. Mm. These people are clowns, man. They're jokes. And that commission was a joke. Hear me, brother. Mm. You know what they did? They gave an apology. The legislature gave an apology. And all they gave those Black survivors, man, some of them were near in their hundreds and 90 years old, was a medallion. Mm. Mm-hmm. And here we are at the 100th anniversary of this, just talking about it. Now, we're talking about it. What I want to say to the viewers is this. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad gave you and I a blueprint for rebuilding Black Wall Street nationally and internationally. Mm-hmm. We are global people. Before the internet, we were global people. in this, but study this man and what he wrote and what he taught. Don't tell me about Malcolm's travels to Africa where he was sitting in at the Organization of African American Unity, and then not talk about Mr. Farrakhan being the only black from the diaspora, he and Brother Akbar being the only black from the diaspora at the birth of the African Union.
Yes.
You don't tell me about all the revolutionaries that Malcolm met with in the 60s, as Minister Farrakhan has met those who are the rulers of those countries that those revolutionaries started in the post-colonial struggle for freedom. There's something, we got to come out of this time warp that we're in, brothers and sisters, and bring it right down to the modern time. And we're willing to accept your criticism, your critique of what Elijah Muhammad did and did not do, what we haven't done. We're willing to do that. But in the end, you can't show me a model in the 20th century that equals the accomplishments of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and that we're going to rebuild, because the first thing Minister Farrakhan wanted to do in self-improvement being the basis for community development is to make sure that we had vertical growth, that we were upright, that we were honest and honorable, no matter who we did business with, and then the horizontal growth comes. So we have people of scholarship and knowledge. And you remember, Brother Rodney, in the beginning, in 1981, in the first Savior's Day, we had scholars from all walks of life, and all of them were in the nation. We've developed our own cadre of PhDs and scholars ourselves. We have everything we need to be the nucleus to rebuild Black Wall Street all over America, or in a state or territory of our own. The question is, when are we going to come to that conclusion that these people are absolutely disagreeable to live with in peace?
My goodness.
No, Brother Haleem, with the increased motivation, for lack of a better word, for our people to go out and acquire land, and the initiative of separation that was spearheaded by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and now our national spokesman, Sister Ava Muhammad, you see the importance of the, and I'm going to say reemergence of the national agenda. And last week we interviewed Brother Ben Chavis, and if you could you speak to the importance of the national agenda as we go out to develop our own and secure some land of our own?
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said to us again and again that politics without economics is symbol without substance. Part of our problem is that we don't have an unapologetically Black agenda. Jewish people have an unapologetically Jewish agenda. They don't apologize for it. Insurance companies, oil companies, you name any special interest, LGBTQ community, they have an unapologetically fill-in-the-blank agenda. Black people need to have that same kind of thought. There are certain lines in the sand that we're not going to cross because it's in our own self-interest. So yes, we must have a Black agenda, because the Black agenda gives us the criterion by which we can judge whether or not those we put in political office are delivering.
What are some of the lines? What if people put us to the test, say, well, what lines do we absolutely say we're not going to cross these lines?
Well, first and foremost, brother, we're in America, and it has to be according to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, brother. It's the acquisition of land. That's first and foremost.
We're not going to talk against the acquisition of land. We don't want to hear about no agenda that denounces, condemns, or chooses to overlook this most essential,
or contributes to the loss of land. Our agenda has to be the acquisition, the retaining, and the sustainable development of land. So that's one. First and foremost, we got to feed, clothe, and shelter ourselves. The next to me would be our education. We got to have an education that makes us want to do for self. We got to have blue collar education and in this climate change environment, we know what it is, but fall of America and the judgments of Allah. But let's use the language of the climate change. We have to have green collar jobs. We have to know about solar power. You talked about power grid, being off the grid, solar power, wind power, thermal power, water power, whatever is necessary to fuel our development. Then we got to have, I call them silicone collar. We got to be in advanced technologies. We need to understand blockchain technology. We need to understand coding, robotics, microprocessing. We need to understand these things going forward in order to be right down to the modern times. So education is key, tied to the trades. So everybody's not going to school getting $60, $70, $100,000 in debt to get a 4-year degree in something you can't even get a job in. No, you got to go and study engineering. You got to study mathematics. You got to study the applied, pure and applied sciences. You have to do these things: construction, architecture, engineering. These things are the basis of nation building. We have to do those things. So this is where we need to go. The study of law. Law is the basis of governance and government. So we have to understand law. And then I would go on, of course, to health. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said we got to have our own hospital. We got to get ourselves, we got to get our mouths out of the white man's kitchen. We got to get our children's brains out of the white man's schools. We have to get ourselves out of this man's system. This vaccination thing, it's like an onslaught, brother.
Right. But even a black hospital, and I agree, and I know that was a project where
we lost many of them, brother.
At the country club, but I was born in the only black hospital in Chicago, Provident, and of course it closed down since then.
All of this integration is a sin, not desegregation. Integration. To desegregate means that my money and my character, I should be able to go anywhere I can according to the 14th Amendment of this Constitution, equal protection under the law. But integration is to abandon my own institutions and my own community to go live next to some other people and spend my money with other people. Nobody else does that but us. The fact that we have to talk about buy black, it seems unnatural to us because you should do that naturally. Everybody else does it naturally. They don't even use that kind of language. They just do it. We have to be taught to do it. Why? What happened to us? So again, these are some of the things that we got to. We have to have our own healthcare system because these vaccinations. In fact, our comorbidity is rooted in the fact of our inability to receive, preventive medicine and to live in food deserts and to have fast food around us, all around us. And I love a Geno's cheesesteak, brother. Damn, I can't live off of that. I gotta have some fresh fruits and vegetables.
I'm getting a signal. We've just about run out of time. But we're gonna do.
Can I come back for part 2 and 3 sometime in the future?
You took the words right out of my mouth. We gotta have a part 2 because I'm holding a book in my hand, How to Kill a City, from Peter Maskowitz, about gentrification, and that we gotta really. That is a very. I want you to next time, if that's what we want to talk about, we'll go specifically into that because those are the things he identifies. That cause segregation is the same thing that's leading to gentrification. It's in that. It's in that document. So, any closing remark you have? This is the time because we're going to set this up for part 2.
Well, I want to first of all thank you, Brother Rodney and Brother Michael, for having me on this program. And I pray, Allah, that what I've said has been of some value to us and will start a conversation, whether you agree or disagree. And I just say this, that they, them, and theirs can never overcome us, our, and we if we will only subordinate I, me, and mine. Let's take on this nation time, brothers and sisters.
That's right.
And the only kind of reparations that can be done is that we repair the damage that's been done. We accept our own, be ourselves, and look to the divine leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Whether you come into the mosque or not, listen to the man. Watch the man. Go where he says go. Stay away from where he says stay away from. And I believe that we will be successful, whether you wear a bow tie, headpiece, you eat bean pies, or you use oil and incense. It don't matter. It's time to build a new reality for ourselves. Thank you.
That's our student minister from the Southwest region of the Nation of Islam, student minister Abdul Haleem Muhammad. And you heard him. He's promised to come back for a part 2 on the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. Don't forget, we air on Tuesday nights at 8 a.m. Facebook Live, our own YouTube page. You can come there and see this program, but also see the archives of others that we have talked to on different subjects that impact our world today. So we thank you all for joining us for the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. And we thank our guest again, student minister Abdul Haleem Muhammad. God bless you, man. And we're gonna get in touch with you to set you up for a part 2. I know the audience is waiting on it.
Oh, praise to Allah.